What's going on, everyone? Welcome. Today is Monday. It is, what month is this? September 12th, 2022. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend and Friday. I hope you're on track for a great Monday. I certainly did and am. Good morning, Dennis. Good morning, Mark. And Dennis says it well. Good morning, whistlekick crew. We blinked and the weekend was over. So true. Well, I think we can chalk that up to good weekends, right? Good times move quickly. Times that are less enjoyable seem to move a little slower. For example, time in horse dance. Horse dance moves pretty slowly. Good morning, Brian and Gad. Good morning to all the rest of you, whether you're watching live or listening. Thank you for coming by. We got a new episode of Martial Arts Radio to talk about. And of course, I want to start off the way we've been starting off. What did you do this weekend? What did you do Friday? Especially if it had to do with martial arts. I had the opportunity to travel a couple hours south. Andrew, as many of you know, hosts a monthly training that the majority of people who attend are not local, including myself. In this case, including myself, but most of the other people attending are not super local as well. But got a chance to train with some friends. Dennis and I partnered up, had a great time. Wonderful working with him as always. Good morning, Stacy. And it was the highlight of my weekend. It really was. Shout out to Linda Lane, past guest of the show, for running the session. She did a great job and learned some stuff. Always learn stuff. It's one of my favorite things, learning things. Good morning, Jenny. Dennis says, fun Superfoot training with Andrew and Abby on Friday and a great advanced training in Keene on Saturday with a fantastic training partner. Haha, I think that's me. Well, that makes my day. There were moments, as I'm waiting for all of you to share what you did this weekend. There were moments with Dennis and I working together where I was so aware. Neither of us had any investment of ego into what was going on. And it was just kind of, we're just doing this. And especially as we got into more advanced stuff and we're just kind of flowing around. And because of that, as a partner, I was able to surrender completely into my side of the drilling because I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid he was going to go too hard. I wasn't afraid he was going to do something dumb and hurt me. I just got to hang out and train and learn not only from what I was doing, but what he was doing. It's my favorite stuff to do. And while it wasn't formally organized as, slow training, we were moving slowly. We were hitting all the principles. And it's just, it's my favorite style of training. So thanks, bud. Good morning, Andy. You have a good day as well. Denny says, had dinner with all but one of my kids this weekend, plus training, of course, and watched Thor: Love and Thunder. How was it? It's been on my list, but I will tell you that I think it was Ragnarok. I was not a big fan of. This is what, the fourth Thor? I've liked two of them. I should probably give Ragnarok another shot. In fact, I may have and just forgotten about it. I find the Thor movies to be quite forgettable. I find a lot of the Marvel stuff to be forgettable. Any of the movies where they just go so hard into the action that they forget that a plot is a good idea. And Dennis is on board, and he really was awesome. Thank you, my brother. Well, you're welcome. Thank you. Stacy watched it too. And Kelly says she wasn't impressed with Thor this time. All right. We're building a consensus. Doesn't mean I won't watch it. Just means I might go in with lower expectations. Gats has had a super training on Friday. Great start of the weekend. Oh, pardon my yawning. Spent the rest of it prepping the YouTube for the YouTube launch, but I reached the point where too much preparation hinders you. Just going to film now and post. Improvement comes with practice. Totally agree. Good morning, Lou. Lou, one of our rare folks coming in from YouTube, but I appreciate all those of you on that side of things. Stacy spent the weekend under the weather, sick and tired of feeling this way. I'm very sorry, Stacy. I hope you get better soon. Brian says they're on episode 7 of Cobra Kai season 5. It dropped Friday. Still loving the show. It's good. I'm hearing great things, but what I'm unclear of is season 5 better than season 4? Because I heard other people grumble about season 4. Is it too early? So the grumbly people, who that might be me, have not watched it yet, or have the people? Yeah, I guess those are the two. Have not yet and won't are roughly the same reason, right? Dennis says Marvel and DC movies are just okay. In my humble opinion, Adam West's Batman is still my John. I don't remember where I was, but I was somewhere. I don't think I shared this on the show. This was just in the last 2 weeks. And it was music, but I was clearly not at a music store because those don't really exist. I don't go in them because I haven't seen one in forever, but I would. And it was something loosely related to the Roots, the hip hop band. I guess I'm actually going to call them a hip hop band, which probably the only musical group that deserves that title. And if you know anything about the Roots, the drummer Questlove has big hair and often has an afro picking. And the title of whatever this was that I was looking at was a Questlove John. And I was like, I kind of know what that word means. So there you go. Mike says, good morning, Jeremy. Get some oxygen in your system. You're yawning way too much. I completely agree. And somebody is logged in as whistlekick and commenting, ha ha ha, somebody on the team. I think I know who that is, but I'm not going to call them out. It could be the word John sounding like yawn. See, I'm talking about it now, yawn. Stacy likes the first Wonder Woman movie with Gal Gadot. That one was very good. Completely agree. Good morning, Nathan. I did not have my water this morning, and that is likely part of the problem. I've been trying to get caught back up on my hydration. When I break my routine, my hydration does not happen the same way because I don't have, big thing of water to fill up from every 10 seconds. All right. Well, you guys can keep chiming in on your weekends or even what's going on today. And I'll tell you whose episode is out today. It'll take me a second here, so bear with me. Nope, not up there yet. Oh, there it is. That's 7:43. I was getting confused for a moment. Gad says, for me, the actual comics always top the movies. Marvel Unlimited is the best purchase for my iPad I've ever made. Oh, that's really cool. You know, I remember hearing when comics started making a comeback on tablets and hopeful that that would be the result, that people would start reading comics again. Because there's something that can be done in that art form that can't quite be done only with text and only in film, right? There, it's an interesting hybrid, and there are so many styles to it. And I think it's great. Look at how many people get so passionate about it. Podcast. So current. Today's episode is with someone that, let's see, who in the chat's going to know? I think only Dennis would know this person. Captain Frank. Today's episode is with Captain Frank Boyos. I'm not saying his last name right because I'm not awake yet. I'm trying to unlearn the way that I used to say his last name. Retired airline pilot who I met through Superfoot stuff and is just an absolutely phenomenal human being. What I did not realize until we talked was how similar the culture of professional pilots is to the culture within martial arts. And Frank talks about this a ton throughout the episode. And I think those of you who know nothing about flying, which is probably most of you, will find that really interesting and surprising. Wonderful time talking to him. This is another good example of someone that I like, someone that I consider a friend, but I don't know well. I see Frank at Superfoot training events, and that's about it. But I got to know him a little bit better, and I always like that. No worries, Liz. Jenny responds again. Now that I'm such a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff, MCU, for those of you who didn't know what that acronym meant, I actually wish I had been a comic book kid. I just never got into them for some reason. But I love to read, so it doesn't make sense. Cece says, I've had a renewed love of comics after a friend started publishing one, and now I'm a character in it. I have a copy of it right over there, which I'm excited about. Just a reminder, and I will continue to remind you of this. If you are attending Free Training Day Northeast, don't sleep on the VIP bundle. Andrew and I just keep reaching out to people saying, hey, how about you contribute something to these bundles? And they're all saying, okay. In fact, we went back to some past guests and said, hey, would you be up for, there were names. There's no way this person's even going to respond. And a surprising number of them have written back saying, okay, where do you want me to send things? I've got a pile going over here, and there's tons on the way. And there's something that I'm starting to call Free Training Day magic. If you know anything about hiking, the Appalachian Trail, the Long Trail, Pacific Coast Trail, what's the other one? There's one in Continental Divide. I don't know if they call it that as a trail, but 3 big trails, hiking trails. There's something called trail magic, where things just seem to go your way. Free Training Day has a bit of that. And I won't get into the specifics, but bottom line, anybody who gets a VIP bundle is going to be very happy. And that's awesome. And that makes me happy. So, yeah. Oh. See, and I will put this one up. And Mike says, I'm shipping out the book to you today. Great example. We reached out to Mike Rowe, past guest, great guy, and said, hey, you want to throw a book into this pile? He said, sure. Kelly says, Comic books are too busy for me. I can't do it. I wish someone would transcribe them into regular book format. Oh, that's interesting. I really liked comics when I was a kid. I didn't have many. We didn't have a comic book store or anywhere that sold them really nearby. And to be blunt, it was something that my mother wouldn't have approved of me spending money on. She didn't understand comic books. Um, there is a stack in my closet somewhere. Some of them are worth a little bit of money, probably a few $100 for all of them at this point. And I don't remember where they came from. They were given to me by somebody because I remember there were a lot of doubles that I gave away. I don't know. She was okay with me spending my money on music or regular books, not comic books. Stacey says, I want all the books. I understand that. Brian says he finally went to the doctor's and got my shoulder x-rayed. We'll see how that turns out. Let me know how it goes. And Dennis is in agreement about today's guest, Frank. Such a great, in capitals, guy. One of the kindest, most generous hearts on the planet. Yeah, he's just a really, really kind man. And I think you'll all enjoy that episode. It's funny, Brian with his shoulder. I had somebody reach out on Thursday, and we were trying to suss out whether she had what was going on with her foot. She's like, I think I broke my foot. I was like, I don't think you broke your foot. So my completely unqualified, non-professional medical opinion is a bone bruise. So we talked about what to do. It's funny. People will ask me, how do you know how to deal with this stuff? Because it's stuff I've dealt with. Because when you get hurt, you ask people smarter than you what to do. You do research, you try things. And if you're a martial artist, some of these things are going to come up time and again, and you get better at treating them. Just remember, no ice. If you want to go back to that episode with Gary Reinl, he explains it better than I can. No ice. And that was one of the first things I told her. I was like, don't ice it. Good morning, Daniel. I love this. See, this is one of the intentions, one of the goals. Stacy says my Amazon wish list is going to grow from all that research on guests with books. Cool. Yeah, free training days are coming close. Posted the flyer for Northeast on Friday. We'll probably do a version for Pacific Northwest and South today or tomorrow. Yeah, the other thing I did this weekend, I did a ton in the gardens, harvested quinoa, tomatoes, tomatillos, found some more peas, shelled beans. Planted some house plants because I'm not going to bring them in for the winter. So I just put them in the garden beds that I'd cleaned out. The quinoa was insane. I have two 13-gallon, two kitchen trash bags full of 3/4 cut. So there's still a little bit left on the stalks that are growing of quinoa. And so it just sits there and dries out, and you shake it out, and you have quinoa in a bag. And it's a lot of quinoa. It's more than I'm going to use this winter. I don't eat a lot in the green world. You're welcome, Stacey. I'm guessing this is Gabe. My dream as a kid was to be an Air Force fighter pilot, and I've always loved planes. My dad got his private pilot certificate, and I worked on getting mine, but wasn't able to finish my training. I do know this is Gabe. Because my dad worked on an Air Force base most of his career, I've had the opportunity to spend time around pilots. So I'm excited to listen to this episode. Cool. I'm curious how similar you will find what he says about the commercial, the private industry versus the military side of flying. A lot of you may not know, I was recruited by the Air Force in high school and flown out to the academy. I was the only person there. They did 2 sessions of this. It was if you cleared this academic standard, you were invited to apply. And I was like, yeah, sure. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're coming. So I went out. I was the only person there out of, a few hundred kids that was not applying to the Air Force. One of the first things they asked us, in session, big group, all of us in this lecture hall, how many of you are thinking about coming? Everybody raised their hand with me. Everybody. It was a vacation. It was a chance to get away, meet different people. It was fun. But the main reason, well, there were two main reasons. I had no interest in serving in the military at that point. That changed a little bit in my 20s. If things had been a little different, I might have. And then back then, unless you had natural 20/20 vision, you couldn't fly. And I had to wear glasses. I have LASIK now. And my understanding is they've changed that rule. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard they've changed that rule. So if things were different, I might have done it. I don't know. Still probably not, but a much better chance than the zero that we had. Let's switch gears over here. Conversation's flowing pretty well this morning. Frank did send some things over. Shout out, thank you as always to Frank for what he supplies to us, not to be confused with today's guest, Frank. And also thank you to Josh for our theme music. This past Saturday was the Mid-Autumn Festival in China and Vietnam. Here's more from anydayguide.com. The Mid-Autumn Festival, Zhōngqiū Jié, is a Chinese harvest festival, also celebrated in Vietnam. It falls on the 15th day of the 8th lunar month in the traditional Chinese calendar. It is an official public holiday in China, Taiwan, Macau, and Hong Kong. The festival is known by many names, such as Harvest Moon Festival, Mooncake Festival, and Reunion Festival. It celebrates three fundamental concepts that have shaped the traditions of the festival. 1, gathering. Family and friends come together to celebrate and harvest crops. 2, Thanksgiving. People give thanks for good harvest. And 3, praying. People ask deities for material or conceptual satisfaction, such as health, wealth, babies, etc. The Mid-Autumn Festival has been celebrated for centuries. One of its most important parts is moon worship, as moon symbolizes femininity and fertility. On this day, the Chinese honor Chage, the goddess of the moon. A modern celebration of the festival includes family gatherings, traditional lion and dragon dances, lighting lanterns, folk games, etc. Probably the best known tradition is making and sharing mooncakes, small round cakes filled with lotus seed paste or red bean. The Mid-Autumn Festival is also celebrated in Vietnam, where it's known as Tet Trung Thu, or Children's Festival. It is marked with lantern processions and lion dances. Unlike in China, Taiwan, and Vietnam, it is not a public holiday. There you go. I'm always a little bit nervous when I read anything in phonetic Chinese because I know Gad's here. Right? I'm assuming that was Mandarin and not Cantonese. Gad's here, and he knows how to speak. So my pronunciation. Usually he says I do okay. So that's good. It reminds me a little bit of the Hebrew festival of Sukkot, which was all growing up at synagogue was one of my favorites. That was a lot of fun because it had to do with food. I like food. I like harvesting food. I like being able to look at a big pile of food that came out of my garden and say, I get to eat this because of the work that I put in. That's nice. I think everyone should grow a little bit of their own food, even if it's a single tomato plant, just so you can appreciate the time and the effort that goes in to food. If you understand how much time goes in, you tend to appreciate what you eat more. And I think that's keeps you present. I think that's a good thing. Oh, excuse me. I'm burping. So it's Monday. It's a meeting day. Oh, by the way, for those of you that were following along with the bank adventure is a little less adventurous now. I did have to go in on Friday to take care of a couple things. And there was something really interesting. And I will share this because it's a bit of a martial arts thing. 2 tellers at the bank One being someone who's been there for a while, one I did not recognize. I suspect through this transition, a number of people have either quit or moved into other jobs or whatever. So you couple low staff with increased questions and needs, create some tension. So I'm in the lobby and there's four of us, this me and this other gentleman and the two behind the line. And we just happened to get there at a time when there weren't very many people. And a bunch of other people start coming in. And one of them makes a bit of a scene and complains, I'm going to switch banks, and walks out. And pretty much everyone else looks at each other and, okay, because it's really nobody's fault in this room that there are problems and that the bank is short staffed. And it got a little interesting when somebody came to the drive through and one of the women, one of the employees, responds to kind of the buzz and says, I'll be with you as soon as I can, or I'll be right with you. And one of the men in line very loudly, ha, I was waiting, not likely. I was waiting for 15 minutes out there. You can tell, okay, he's really annoyed. And he and somebody else in line start chatting about how terrible things are. And the hackles are up on the back of my neck because this guy's standing a little closer than I would like him to, but I can tell he's really upset. You can kind of feel it. Been in situations like that, you can just kind of feel someone's frustration. And I know that he's already taken a few steps towards being problematic. So I'm just kind of quietly observing. I've turned a little bit. I'm no longer completely facing the bank teller. I'm turned at about 30 degrees, just enough that if he moves closer, I can see. Not that I think he's going to attack me, but when people are mad, things can get weird. Now, the other gentleman, remember when I said there were four of us? He finishes up and he's leaving. And he says something to the older guy. This guy's probably in his 60s. The other guy was probably in his late 40s. And he says, don't be such a jerk next time, you know? And I'm like, okay, here it comes. And the older guy clams up. It's like, oh, okay, interesting. So this other guy walks out and I look around and I realize I'm the only other man in the room. Now, if you know me personally, you know me well, you know I'm not sexist. But I also don't ignore statistics. This man has the elements of a bully, is less likely to speak up while this other gentleman is in the room. But as the gender dynamic starts to shift, he may become a little bold again. And he goes up and he's now talking with the other teller, and I'm almost staring because I'm just like, I'm not missing anything with this guy. And he's taken a while, and I finish up, and I just, you know what? I went and I sat down in a chair, and I waited until he left. I was like, there's no way I'm leaving this guy alone. If there's going to be a problem, he is going to be at the center of it. And I got time. So fortunately, nothing happened. But I wanted to tell that story as an example of where we have the ability to be helpful. I knew it was very unlikely it was going to turn physical, but there was a non-zero chance and a greater than average, a greater than normal chance. I knew that by me staying there, it made any problems less likely, not because I'm an imposing figure, but just because of the dynamics of the situation. And I didn't need to say anything to anybody. I didn't need to tell the teller, I'm going to stick around for a while. She didn't need to know. She didn't need to understand. And these are the types of everyday things that I think we as martial artists have the ability to do to make the world better And we don't need to tell people we're doing them. We don't need to explain why. We understand the realities of the world in a way that not everyone does. And to just be. Now, I could have said something to that gentleman, and I almost did. But he only made that one loud comment. If he had kept going loudly, I would have spoken up. But there's also something to be said for letting him say his piece, because if I say something to him, now there's a confrontation and he's lost face in front of people. And I don't want to do that, because then he has to choose how to respond. It's not good, right? So I hope you'll take that example to heart. I'm sure many of you have done things like this over the years. If you have students, when things like this come up for you, tell them. Help them understand that their training in defense of others doesn't have to be in response to violence. It could be the threat of violence, or in this case, I was quite confident that by remaining there, the threat of violence was greatly decreased. Okay. Kelly says, unrelated, I want to give a shout out to Andrew, who shared a video about how stances are practical and actually used in sparring. Very informative. Right on. Yeah, we did a bunch of stance stuff over the weekend. All right. So there you go. If you have examples of, those kind of stories from your own life, let's talk about them tomorrow. Somebody remind me. Okay. So there we go. Thank you, Josh. Josh says, go, Jeremy, keeping the world safe from one putz at a time. Yeah, he was definitely a putz. So remember, if you want to support us in the work that we do at Whistlekick, start at whistlekick.com. You can buy something using the code FirstCup15, get yourself 15% off. And there's a ton of other stuff over there. Lots of links. If you've heard about free training day and you're like, well, what? There's a link over there for that. There are links to all the things that we do from whistlekick.com. If you want to check out the podcast episode today with Frank, it's available everywhere. Everywhere podcasts are available. And if you want to join the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. Of course, the whole list for those of you who are in fact family, whistlekick.com/family. Oh, wrong banner. Remember, we do the show every weekday, 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Oh, thank you. Gad says you did the right thing, although it was a stranger and you don't owe him anything. He's a fellow human being. I'd do the same for a dog even. And you didn't escalate and showed patience and restraint. And I think that that's the key. I had every confidence that if I needed to defend myself or others, I could have. But I had enough experience, and my ego was intact sufficiently that I didn't need to escalate things to feel like I was doing the right thing. Just, hey, I'm just going to make sure this guy leaves. And I observed him when I got out to his car, and it was very clear from his disposition, his manner, that he was just kind of afraid of the world. He probably felt like he was getting beat up left and right, and I could see it just in the way he moved and the way he backed out of his parking space. He was being a bully. He was passing on his feelings that the world was bullying him towards other people. And it was sad. And that's the last kind of person that needs to get punched in the face. So why create situations that take it towards that direction? I want to thank you all for coming by. Go check out that episode. Let me know what you think. I'll see you tomorrow, and maybe we'll have some more examples of stories like this to talk about. Take care, everybody. Peace.